Welcome to the Private Practice Pro podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping therapists cultivate success. Here's your host, Kelley Stevens.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. I'm so excited about our next guest. This is Maddie Spear. And Maddie, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself because I'm terrible at doing the introductions. So you tell us who you are, where you are, what your practice is like. Go for it.
All the things. Perfect. Well, so glad to be here, Kelley. First off, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for today. So I am a licensed clinical social worker and I act as a therapist. And I like to say I act as a therapist because social workers, as we know, can do so many different things. So right now I'm in the therapy role and I specialize with trauma, anxiety, and really focus my work with kids, teens, and young adults in North Carolina. I've worked actually kind of all over a little bit the globe and the country. I've lived in California, worked in Texas, worked in Thailand and Myanmar, and right now I'm calling North Carolina home. And it's been wonderful so far. So I love what I do. I love that there is such a uniqueness to being a therapist, especially in today's modern age. And so part of the way I engage in modern therapy, I like to call it, is I also engage a lot of individuals online through social media. So I have an Instagram and a TikTok and get all the Gen Z people that way. And have loved the process of normalizing mental health and also providing tips online. So trying to do a lot with that title right now.
I love it. Well, and I think you had mentioned you're coming out with a course too, right?
Yes. Yeah. So that's kind of been the next new step for me right now is I'm realizing that so many therapists also are realizing that we need to start engaging modern mental health. And one of the ways to do that, I think, is creating this incredible presence online. But as therapists, there's so many nuances to it. So I am creating a course to help therapists navigate TikTok and grow their TikTok account, navigate the app, also do it ethically, might I add, because that's a big component that we need to pay attention to. And then one of the most fun parts about it is also make money on the app.
Yeah.
Is how can you bring extra income to your already thriving private practice and do something that is both more passive and more fun and creative on the side too. So that will be coming out end of October, depending on what time this is being released.
Right around the time this episode drops, we're going to try to time it out.
Incredible. So yeah, make sure that you can engage with the social media accounts that I do have so you can be all up to date when that happens. But it's so exciting. I'm really looking forward to seeing how many therapists can engage with this and hopefully get
totally. Well, and as therapists, I feel like they don't teach us how to work TikTok. I mean, I'm still struggling with how to work TikTok. I log on and I'm looking at recipes, but it's hard, dude. So this is going to be a great resource. And okay, so here's what I want to do. We have, I feel like, a million things we could talk about, but the two things that I think stand out to me the most are one, this TikTok, social media, how you're using it in your practice, how you've grown it. And then the second side question, which I want to start with, is you mentioned you've practiced all over. And I know the first thing people are going to ask me is, how do you do that? Did you, when you went abroad, when you've been in different states with licensing, how did that work for you?
Great question. Yeah, let's start with that because I want to have more answers than I know I'm going to have, but I will at least share what was true for me.
Yeah, share your experience.
Yeah, part of why I'm able to say I've kind of worked all over was part of the time I was actually pre or unlicensed. And I wasn't practicing unethically, but I was an undergrad. And so I am originally from California. So whenever I went home for summers, for holidays and things like that, I would always make sure to engage in social work in the state in some way. But oftentimes it was internships. It was things I didn't need licenses for. And then in Texas, where I worked, I was using my undergraduate degree to kind of fuel my career as a social worker. So I was a little bit therapy oriented, more social work, case management, managing middle school groups, things like that. I did a lot of work in human trafficking prevention out there. So that was my bread and butter. Moving over to international social work, that is where I actually started to become kind of in this therapy role. So I started to do therapy in Thailand for a few months and loved my time doing that.
Wow.
Interesting thing is you don't need a clinical license over there. As we know, at least in the States, every state has a different license protocol. Right. Every country has a different license protocol. So some of the countries in different parts of the world don't require the same licensing, More so they require government approval. So I worked with the agency that I was going over there with, and we were able to work with the government to grant me a special kind of visa to be able to do the work for a shorter period of time, but also have that clinical social work background.
Wow.
So that's kind of how I did all that. And when I got to North Carolina, that is where I officially got my full licensure.
And then you had to go do it. Yeah. So would you recommend, so when you were abroad, is that something you would recommend other therapists do? Like, what was your experience like?
Oh my gosh, yes. That was everything to my career and also to me personally. It was such a sweet time of growth and challenging what I knew social work could be. And really a time where I had to check myself of what good am I actually doing in this area? Is my services going to be helpful to these individuals? Or am I coming in with what I like to call white savior complex, and especially coming from the US, and saying, I have great education, let me fix everything because I know so much. That's not at all what I wanted to come into to this area with. And especially the population I worked with, a lot of those individuals were young children who had either been refugeed or experienced human trafficking or orphaned in some capacity. So it was kind of a mixture of foster care, human trafficking, and in terms of what we know as in the U.S.
Right.
So it was a really beautiful time to challenge myself, grow myself, and learn a lot and a hands-on perspective on the job. I think that it was really sweet working with individuals who were living there. There weren't many people coming from the U.S. I think there was maybe 2 or 3 out of this whole 50-person operation.
Wow.
So it was something that I had to grow into really quickly, but I recommend every therapist, if you have a heart or a desire to go international, do it.
That's amazing, because a lot of people don't do it. Did you do it before or after grad school? Where did it kind of fall? Yeah. So I took about a year off in between my undergraduate degree and my graduate degree, and then spent time in Thailand doing that. Wow.
So I worked a little bit briefly in Myanmar and Thailand, and traveled a little bit throughout Asia, but mostly focused in those 2 countries.
Wow. And then you came back and you went to school in California? Or wait,
North Carolina.
In North Carolina. And that's how you ended up in North Carolina. And then you stayed and got licensed there.
Correct. You got it.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
After, I love my career so far. It's been an incredible journey. I will say after my graduate program, I then started to work for community mental health practice. So I wasn't still on my own. I wasn't still doing private practice quite yet.
Yeah.
I was working for a foster care agency in North Carolina, which I love the work I did. But as so many therapists probably listening know, if you're looking into private practice, you get overworked and underpaid really, really quickly. And unless you're doing things to actively fight the burnout, it's going to come. So eventually, due to some, we'll say a little bit poor management, had to take a step back. And then it really inspired me to start my own thing. And I actually celebrated my 1-year anniversary of having a private practice yesterday.
Wow, I saw that on Instagram. Okay, so tell me, when did you know you might make the leap?
Let me do some math here. So I started my private practice again a year ago, which at the time of this recording is September 14th or 15th of 2021. I think I started thinking about taking the leap October 2020.
Wow.
So I had been kind of really slowly planning this for almost a year, about 10 months or so, and really wanted to be really intentional with the work I did and the steps I took to get to this place.
Wow. And did you jump full time? Like, what was that actual transition like? Did you quit your job and just do it? Did you do like a half and half? How did it kind of go?
I wish I could tell myself to do it differently.
Tell us how you did it. You don't have to tell us the ideal way. Tell us just how you did it. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you the pros and cons of doing what I did.
All right.
So I gave my work a 90-day notice. I think it was 60 to 90-day notice. And I really want to be respectful and honoring of the work they're doing.
Yeah.
Especially I worked with children who had a trauma history. I didn't want to feed into any abandonment or attachment concerns. So I really wanted to protect the space. So I gave them a 60 to 90-day notice. At that time, I started putting myself out there in the marketing realm of things. I said, hey, this thing is coming. I can't take any active clients till September, putting my name out there. So I kind of got the word out. And then I stopped cold turkey end of August.
Wow.
I took a week to have a vacation because I had not had a vacation in a long time. I went to Hawaii. I soaked it up. It was wonderful. I needed to like make a mark to commemorate the work I had done and also give me a really good intention setting time to private practice. So,
and at this point, you hadn't started seeing any private practice clients, right?
Yeah.
So what was that trip like? I'm just envisioning for me, if I had quit a full-time job and then I was on a vacation, but I didn't know if I was going to make any money, like what were you feeling on the trip? Were you excited? Were you nervous? Like,
I think all of the above, but mainly I was just hopeful. I think I remember that feeling looking back and thinking, I'm so excited for this. It's going to be nerve-wracking. I don't know what the future is going to hold. I'm having to trust other therapists who have gone before me and said this is worth it. But I just remember feeling really empowered, if I think I can say that. I think I was really empowered and hopeful that this could be an opportunity to impact my future forever.
Oh, yeah,
it was
totally.
It was a time of deep reflection. I can say that.
Yeah.
And I'm someone who, as a therapist, I feel all the feelings deeply. So,
I understand.
like I'm sure so many people listening, but I really wanted to make that time a really intention setting time. So that was important for me.
Okay, so then you get back from Hawaii, and what happens?
Get back. I then set up my office for a week. So then I have office setting up time.
Right.
I think at that point I started seeing one client because I wanted to make sure I could do that virtually. So I started seeing one client virtually. And then I waited. I waited for clients to come in.
Where did that first client come from? Do you remember?
I think Psychology Today.
Yeah.
I think I had put my name out there and they had actually contacted me back in July and were willing to wait.
Wow.
So they were seeing me. And then slowly over time, a few clients came trickling in. I think when I got to 5, that was a big accomplishment. And I can't give you exact number, but I want to say it took months or 2 maybe to get there.
What were you feeling during that month?
Oh gosh. That's what I was feeling. I was feeling, what the heck did I do? Am I going to eat this month?
Right.
Am I going to make bills this month? Is this worth it? And I think the back of my mind, I always knew it's coming.
Yeah.
It's worth it coming. But I mean, there was this immense fear of what if it doesn't?
Right.
And all the what ifs came in my own anxiety-filled mind.
Were you doing any marketing at that time, or what? You obviously had Psychology Today, but what were you doing to get clients to come in?
So I still had a social media presence at that time. So I still had Instagram and TikTok, and those have grown since then. So I was using social media, which I actually got a lot of my clients through social media, which was an incredible resource for me. And then I had a couple referrals, some friends who were like, actually, my person I know needs a therapist. And so they came in. But it took a while to get to a point where a few things happened. Where one, I was manageably full, and I don't mean full, but full enough to pay the bills and make a baby profit.
Right.
And also, it took a while to gain the confidence that I deserved to be in this role.
Yeah.
And that supposed to be in this private practice realm. Because I mean, as therapists, we all encounter imposter syndrome all the freaking time. So I had to fight that imposter syndrome, all of that.
Oh, 100%. What about, okay, so what were the things that allowed you to kind of sink into that role? Like, how did you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm feeling confident?
Can you repeat that? You cut out just a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I was saying, what were the things that helped you feel confident in your work? Like, how did you get to the point where you felt like the imposter syndrome was slowly, not that it ever goes away, but slowly starting to lessen?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think when I realized a few different things. One, clients came back and I was like, oh my goodness, these clients are never going to show up again. But then they kept booking week after week.
Yeah.
They said, this is helpful. Let me continue. And I had to really sit with myself of, again, asking the question, are my services worth their investment? And am I doing the right thing by being their therapist? Or should they go to someone more experienced because there's plenty of all levels experience in therapy. But they kept coming back and they said, you're different. You're different than my former therapist. You're providing a different thing that I didn't know I needed, but this is worth it for me to continue. So I think that was helpful to know clients have their own autonomy, and part of our job is to give that to them. But at the end of the day, they can choose to leave, and they didn't. And that was really helpful. I also think a big part of it, and I mentioned this a couple times, was social media, honestly, which is so, I feel like silly to say, but social media gave me the confidence as a therapist, because if I could get these messages and hundreds of messages truly telling me I'm being helpful to them through a TikTok, oh my goodness, maybe I could be helpful to someone if I knew their story more intimately.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So let's talk about your TikTok, because I feel like that's been a huge thing for you. So tell me, and Instagram, obviously. So what was like, I know you had a social media presence before you left your full-time job, right? A little bit, you had done some. So what did you think it was going to be when you first started?
Oh my gosh, I did not know. I thought this was a joke.
Me too. On mine, not yours.
Yeah, no. I mean, who would have thunk that app that Gen Z dances on is going to be something that could help people navigate mental health? Oh my gosh, I never thought that. Oh my gosh, I thought this was a joke. I remember when I first joined TikTok, and I later joined Instagram after I had kind of built a TikTok following, at least on the mental health side of things. Yeah. I just made the quarantine videos, right? Like I was like, I'm here to get siblings and we're bored, and because they visited, and let's make content and just pretend to be funny. And we knew that we weren't. We're all pathetic.
Wait, you said you were doing it with your siblings, or who? Wait, who did you say?
Yeah. My husband and my little brother came out because he was needing to get out of the house himself. And he came over, and we had like a little quarantine Olympics type of thing. We tried to see what competitions we can make happen to entertain us last time. All the things. And then when I made my first video about therapy, it was actually a bet with my siblings.
Really?
Yes. We all said, we're going to see who can get the most views on TikTok for one video. We're all going to post at the exact same time. You can make whatever video you want, and we're just going to see what happens. And mine got the most views.
Oh my God. Now I need to see the video. What was the video about?
It's way back when. It is... let me think of the audio here.
I totally put you on the spot.
TikTok. Yeah, TikTok, everything is imitated over your audio for the most part. Right. So it was the song, like, if the world was ending, you'd come over, right? You'd come over, right? The person says no. And so what I took the audio and I said something like a common misconception that a lot of people engage in of, I think it was, if I ignore the feelings, they'll go away, right? And me as a therapist goes, no. With that me face. And it took off. And so I won my siblings' bet. So woohoo, go me. Hold over their heads still. But since then, I realized that people were needing therapy content. People were, especially in a time where there was so much unknown and so much, like, I think stress and confusion and anxiety that was just like developing over this time. There was a need. And so since about 1.5 years ago, I've so enjoyed being a part of fulfilling that need, making mental health accessible, engageable, and fun online.
And like, I always think like we are taught in school, we meet clients where they're at. And especially if you work with younger clients or young adults, or honestly anyone at this point, like so many people are on social media, like you're interacting with your client and they're laying in their bed on, at 2 a.m. watching your video, or they're in the middle of a fight with their spouse and they're watching your video. And I feel like it's a way to interact with clients in real time where we don't always get that opportunity in the therapy room,
Absolutely.
And in some ways, I don't know about you, but for me, when I was in grad school, we were taught like, don't be on social media, be whatever. And so I was super hesitant. I had a similar experience to you. Like my babysitter taught me how to make, not my babysitter, my kid's babysitter, however you say that, taught me how to make a TikTok, taught me how to make an Instagram, like deep in the pandemic, similar thing. And I remember thinking like, in some ways, it seems so natural that therapists would be content creators. And the reality is, and I tell therapists this all the time, like other people are going to create content about mental health, regardless of, because this is what we're talking about nowadays. And like, luckily Gen Z is like so much more well-versed in mental health. So I tell therapists like, you can either be a part of the conversation or you could be out of the conversation, but there's going to be mental health content one way or another. So I would rather the therapists are the ones making it, not that other mental health content isn't a good thing, but we get a chance to meet clients where they really are, and I think it's so important.
That's a really powerful perspective. That's so good. I love that, Kelley. Yes. I mean, why would we not be in the room? And I mean, I agree with you. There was not a class in grad school or undergrad or any type of course that I could take that says, here's how to be a therapist online, or here's how to show up. They told us the opposite because self-disclosure was not a good thing. But I think there's a power and a beauty to understanding the nuance between, I'm not going to tell you my life story as if you're my client or on social media. I'm not going to tell you everything. But I am going to join you where you are at and say, there's purpose behind your story and there's purpose behind mine. And if I can help impact through the knowledge I've received from my own mental health struggles or my own knowledge as a therapist, how much more powerful and impactful is that?
Oh, 100%. And I mean, I obviously am a fan of your social media and I've seen a ton of your videos. And I think you do a particularly good job of that, of like, it's like one of those like show rather than tell type of things. I think you do a great job of like being relatable, being yourself, but also being a therapist, and I think that you're right. There's an art to it. Like it's a fine line of like self-disclosure versus psychoeducation. And like, the therapists that I see that just do psychoeducation, right? And they're just like fact. They're not building bigger followings. And then the therapists that you see that are like so much self-disclosure and like, they're saying things that they're really struggling with in the current moment and whatever, that can be really not a good fit for clients. And I think you do a great job of like telling people about yourself, showing yourself, being authentic while also still being professional. And that's not always an easy line to figure out,
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you saying that because there's been times where I'm like, is this professional? Do I need to reevaluate some things? Because it's important that I look at it through a different lens of, will this be helpful to people who watch it? Am I okay with the whole world knowing this, one, but also my client knowing this? Would this be poorly impactful to my client if they are viewing this story? So I have to look at it through like a helpful lens, but also, is this going to be a detriment to the people who I work with? Because number one, those are my people who are my priority.
Right. Those are the most important people, are your clients. And I think it's a work in progress. And like, do you want to hear a funny story? I can't believe I'm going to say this on my podcast.
Yes.
You want to hear? Okay. I can decide if I'm going to edit it out later. Probably not. But so now I'm in it. Now I can't unsub. Okay. So when I first started my Instagram page, okay, like I didn't know how it all worked. All right. Like I was trying to figure it out. And I had a baby in March of 2020. So I had like a week 2 pandemic baby. All right.
Oh my God.
And I was breastfeeding and whatever. And meanwhile, I'm like making videos. All right. I'm like trying to figure out how Instagram, TikTok, all this shit works. And we have this one room in my house where like 3 sides are glass. All right. And so one day I was like, I'm going to make a video showing people this room. All right. But I had just been breastfeeding and I didn't have a shirt on. But I wasn't in the video. Okay. Like I wasn't planning. I was just filming the room. All right. And so I filmed the room. I post this like, this is where I sit and like see clients or whatever and like post the video. And I am on my stories. Okay. And like at this point, like, I don't know, I had like 10,000 followers or something. Like, my account wasn't as big as it is now, but it was big. And I wake up the next morning and my best friend texted me and was like, oh my God, you need to wake up. Like, what are you doing? Like, responding. And I didn't realize I was topless in the reflection because the 3 sides of the real world class. And I was completely, and like Instagram didn't flag it because like it's just a reflection or I don't know what. Meanwhile, like thousands of people had watched my video and like I was trying to build this whole brand and company around like being professional and being a therapist on Instagram. And I had accidentally filmed myself topless and posted it to 10,000 people.
I love that.
You know,
yes.
it was and I like obviously deleted it. Like it's not in the catacombs of the internet anywhere. Like this was like a year ago. But oh my God. I mean, like you're going to make, hopefully no one else makes the topless mistake, but like you're going to make mistakes.
I love that. You're going to make mistakes. Hey, I mean, it's one way to get followers.
I know, right? She was like, hopefully a lot of people watch that video, you know, and oh my God, it was the worst. I was like so mortifying. But like, you know, I think, I don't know that there's any way to spin that like, oh, like, great, my clients, hopefully none of my clients saw it. But that actually does bring up a good question of like, do your clients follow you on Instagram and TikTok? Like, how does that work?
Good question. Yes and no. So there are some clients who I have had who don't know I have a TikTok or Instagram. And there's been times where I feel so bad, but they'll have a session with me and they'll say, Maddie, I saw you on my For You page last night. And I said, oh. I said, did you now? And they're like, uh-huh. It was 2 a.m. and you were telling me that here's ways to calm down and go to sleep when you have anxiety. And I was like, okay, so you needed to see that. That was me haunting you after therapy. And all the funny story. There's definitely been some funny moments from people finding me online who didn't know I had it. And then if we have that discussion, I say, you have a choice. You are welcome to follow me. My content is there for a reason. If it helps, great. What I would encourage you to do is not follow me because you think it's going to help me in any way.
Yeah.
I care about you with or without you following me. It does not matter one way to me.
Right.
But I also want you to be protected. So if you don't want to see your therapist on your page, on your phone, if you want me once a week, please block me. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
It's fine. But if you're someone who wants to, continue to engage, this is helpful, great. But don't follow it for me or to know what I'm doing or any benefit to like peek into your therapist's life. Follow it if it's helpful. So we have a few discussions like that. I do have a lot of, I think probably about half of my clients come from TikTok. And
right. Yeah. So some of them already know. Yeah.
Some of them already know and they have that choice. I have a disclaimer that kind of goes into what my social media policy is. I'm not going to follow you back. I'm not going to engage with you. I don't want to break HIPAA in any way. So I really want to protect your privacy space. But yeah, it varies a little bit. But
do your clients ever send you DMs? Do you ever get like messages from your clients? Has that ever happened?
If it has, we've been very quick to restore boundaries from that. So I say, Instagram DMs is not a safe place to engage. I have a phone number we can use, or I have an email that I check way too frequently. So if you need something, email me. If you don't, then I legally am not able to respond to you on social media, at least from my perspective.
Or like, do people ever comment on your stuff? Like comment in the
few.
Yeah.
I've had a few.
Yeah. And
I typically don't engage, depending on like what video it is, with all the comments. So it doesn't really look like anything. But,
same.
It's we talk about it session. So I see that you did that. And they're like, oh, you noticed. So,
I know it's a tricky one. I usually like I have a policy in my intake packet that just explains it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I remember how I can't, but that makes sense. I mean, okay, so tell me, let's transition again. I'm not very good at following a flow.
I love it.
Tell me about building an online course. So first of all, how did you decide to do it?
Yeah, good question. I'm both towards the end and also in the thick of it at this moment. So I'm feeling all the feels related to course stuff. I did not know that course writing would ever be in my on my resume.
Yeah.
Anyway, it never was something that I thought I would engage in. But I have seen so many great people, you included, have incredible content that people are needing to see. And I keep telling Kelley multiple times, people who are listening, oh my goodness, where were you a year ago? Why didn't I follow your account? Because that would have made my life so much easier to follow someone who knows what they're doing and also who can help me navigate like things like paperwork and things like what are the ethics behind it and the common questions that we need to have answers to. Oh my goodness, I had to figure that all out on my own. And if only I took a course like Kelley's at the beginning to give me this knowledge, I could have figured out what I figured out much quicker and much less painful, painless, whatever.
I don't know.
Yes. So I think I've seen a few individuals share their knowledge about things. And that was really inspiring to me. And so I said, well, I have this knowledge about TikTok and how to be a therapist and how there's so many nuances to it.
Oh, there are.
Why don't I put this knowledge that isn't really common knowledge out there so therapists can both grow their own practice, make money on the side doing it ethically, and like growing a fun social media account on the side? I mean, it felt like a win-win-win. So I wanted to teach people how to do the same thing, but it's been a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But it's a lot of work. Yeah.
So what has the learning curve been for? Are you using like a software program, or what do you like? I know I use Kajabi. I'm switching to Thrivecart. It's a whole mess. Like, are you using something specific?
I will be.
I can help you if you need help.
I might take you up on that.
Text me.
I have an incredible person I'm working with to help me kind of stay on task with the content I'm putting out. So she's been incredible to work with. So that's kind of in my I call her my little manager, even though she's technically not. She's been so helpful.
I have that too.
To how to navigate what the heck do I need for a course. She's helping me realize, Maddie, you forgot this point. Oh, your people are going to know that this is a pain point. Where are you meeting this need? So helping me keep on track. But right now I have, at the time of this recording at least, all the content is finished.
Wow, that's the hardest part.
Yeah. Yes. And now comes the fun recording and putting it on a platform. But it's so fun when I'm reading through the content. I'm so proud of it. I'm so happy. And there's so many little freebie goodies along the way. And when you're taking this course to learn of, how do you pick a niche?
Yeah.
What are appropriate hashtags for TikTok and how do you manage them? How can you work with brands and let's work out brand scripts, be able to copy, paste, and input the information in and get thousands of dollars of brand deals from this.
Totally.
So I'm calling it kind of a one-stop shop to all TikTok related content for therapists.
I love that.
It'll be great. It'll be great when it comes out. So I'm really excited for it. But right at now, we're still developing everything.
I get it. I feel like I spent about, a year in that first, and that first part of like sitting down and writing the content. That's hard. Or at least it was for me. I would get up and at like 4 a.m. or something. It's like my time zone that I love. And I would just sit there and I'd be like, okay, like, who is the therapist that needs this? What are they struggling with right now at this minute? Okay, let's like write that piece of content. And it's harder than I think people think. I think people see these like jazzy, beautiful online courses and they think they just come together. But you're right. Like, and you brought up a good point of like, it can be helpful to delegate parts of it or to have people on your team that really help you, or at least it is for me. I think I tried to DIY it at first and then I was like, I need help.
I think that's one of the best parts about, at least as a therapist for me, is admitting defeat and realizing that we have to know our own humanity sometimes. And I realize I'm not a professional in every area, nor do I pretend to be, but I know what I know when I know it.
Right.
Some of these things I don't know, and I need to outsource and offer help because that's better for my mental health, it's better for my space, and it's better for the individuals who are engaging with that kind of content because they know multiple professionals worked on this to make this best, most well-versed course ever.
Oh, 100%. And I think like, I don't know if this is something that you encountered, but I know for me, like when I was setting up my online platform, like, so I remember calling somebody and saying to them, like, I just need like 2 or 3 hours of your time to help me set up these videos. They were like, sure.
I love it.
But, anyway, that is what it is. But I think that sometimes the hard part, or at least the hard part I found with building an online platform is there is some upfront cost because if you're delegating, like rather when you're setting up a private practice, like I always tell people, like the cost is actually pretty minimal, like in terms of like you could set up a telehealth practice, you need some malpractice insurance, you need some furniture, but like, it's a pretty quick return on investment in therapy land when you're setting up just a private practice. versus when you're building an online platform or a course, there could be a lot more upfront cost and you're not necessarily sure that people are going to buy it. And so that could be a tricky thing to navigate. So I'm wondering for you, like, so you've hired someone, like you're setting up this course. Has that been something you've had to kind of think like, okay, I'm taking a little bit of a financial risk and putting this out there?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it is definitely a financial risk. These people who I've been able to hire have been in a beautiful investment worth every penny and more.
Totally.
But I also need to, I'm making this course for a reason, both to help others, but also, and I think that's how we feel about private practice land too, is we do this to help others, but also we do this to help ourselves a little bit too. We should not be shamed for wanting to make money in a livable wage and also more than a livable wage. So I think that's repeat.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's so important that I think we take away a little bit of the shame and saying that, especially as therapists. And I could go on that rant for literally hours. So let me know if we want to. But I think for at least this course, it definitely is a risk. And it's something that I'm hoping to break even on, and I'm hoping to make profit on. And I'm also taking this as a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
So if I can only break even, which is a goal I am manifesting 100%.
You are 100% going to do more than break even.
I appreciate that. Sometimes I need to hear that.
You are. Okay. You 100% are.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to you being right. I really am. And I think that's partly, that imposter syndrome coming back and saying, why do I not feel worthy enough to be able to say my content that I'm putting out here is worth it for others? And so it's, checking my own self and saying, I've invested in this. I know what I'm talking about. I know this content's incredible.
And people need it. I mean, no one teaches therapists how to grow on TikTok. Like,
correct.
People need the information.
That's the cool thing is I think I'm one of the only people, actually, I have not seen any other course. I'm sure there might be, but for therapists to grow on TikTok, there's, a few different TikTok online courses, but I really encourage people that if you're going to invest in a course, especially around TikTok growth, you make sure it's therapist person.
Oh, 100%. It is I could preach on this for 3 hours. Like, it is so different to be a therapist content creator than just a content creator, And I know for me, on my team, we have other therapists, because when you're creating content, it's completely different for therapy, than it is for selling soap or shoes or whatever. So I could not agree more. I mean, okay, so I'm just going to say, as your friend, I know for me, when I was about to launch my course, I kept on saying to my husband, shout out to Sam, I'd be like, I just want to break even. That was my line. Okay. I just was as long as I break even, I don't care. This is a great experiment. I'm going to break even. And he finally one day, after I said this a million times, he's sat me down. He's like, I need you to just stop saying, I can't hear it again. You're going to do more than break even. Regardless, maybe you'll break even month one, maybe you'll break even a year in, maybe whatever. You're going to break even because you're going to figure out how to. You're going to just keep going until you at least do. And I'll tell you now, we've done way more than break even, obviously. But it was so my own, you're saying, it was my own imposter syndrome again. And I thought I had kicked that to the curb a long time ago with having successful practices and successful businesses. And then all of a sudden, as soon as I was okay, I'm going to create this course and I'm going to put this out there, I was like, no one's going to buy it. There's no way, and that's just not true. I mean, there's, first of all, in the space of creating content as therapists, people will often say to me, do you think therapist content creation or therapy content is oversaturated? This is a question I get all the time. And I keep on saying to people, are you kidding? Therapists are the newest kids on the block when it comes to content creation. We haven't been, think about DIY bloggers and chefs and anyone on Pinterest. That's and people are still designing new stationery brands and selling their pottery on Etsy and all these different things. And meanwhile, I have therapists being no, it's saturated. I'm it is definitely not. There are not a lot of therapy content creators out there compared to all sorts of other specialties. So it's going to be good. And I don't know anyone else. I mean, I know other people who have Instagram growth course and things, but no, I don't know another therapist who has a TikTok growth course, So, and like, I think a lot of therapists are afraid
And
of TikTok, you know? They need another therapist to break it down for them.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, if they were like me and thought it was only Gen Z dancing videos, of course I'd be terrified of that.
Oh, totally.
But yes, but if we can also understand that, I mean, there are different sides of the internet, of course, and there's such beauty to Instagram and other social media platforms. But I think one of the most unique parts about TikTok specifically is its ability to show up and be authentic. And I always say the difference between the two apps, mainly between Instagram and TikTok, is Instagram feels more curated.
Yeah.
You got to be
100%.
Professionally. You got to be, make the cute posts. You got to work in Canva. It's a lot more upfront work. And TikTok, you're just like, all right, let me tell you what I know.
Right.
And then you can get thousands of people to say, I want to know more.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a really unique place that 2 years ago, we didn't always have the opportunity to do that. But
totally. We didn't have TikTok. Well, I don't know when it came out, but 3 years ago, I don't know.
It's embarrassing that it's been out for a long time, but
wait,
it just got big.
How long has it been out?
Oh, I should know this, but it's been at least 5-ish years, at least.
So my mind is blown.
Probably long.
In my mind, I'm like,
I'm really not about
pandemic, like 2020. I don't know. All I know is I love a good TikTok.
Yes. Oh, me too. It's unfortunately what I do in between sessions.
Me too.
I spend my time.
I love, do you follow the Korean vegan? I'm obsessed with her. That's totally random, but you should follow her.
I will have to then.
She's great. Shout out to her.
Sorry,
I totally interrupted you to tell you about the Korean vegan. I don't know why I did that.
Please keep doing it. I love these. That's great. But I think, it's made a really good point of the saturation of the app. I mean, there was parts of it where I looked up to therapy creators on the platform too. Like there were so many that I was like, oh my gosh, they're incredible. They're doing such good work. Like I just want to be friends with them. I just want to know them. Little did I know that I would know them. Like I would be friends with them, because then I put myself out there and said, I have absolutely as much authority as they do to be in this space.
100%.
And people support that. So
100%. I could relate to that.
Well,
like I definitely had some therapy crushes on people, where I was like, I want to be like them when I grow up. And like, but you're right. You just have to dive in and be a part of the conversation. And I think that that's the hardest part, is like making those first few videos. Like if I look back on mine, I'm like, oh my God. I like so often I'm tempted to like delete my first few reels. And then I'm like, no, don't do it.
Keep them. All fun things to look back on your growth for.
I know. Okay. Well, so I feel like we're going to have a part 2 of this. Once your course comes out and like you're in the depth of it, I want to follow up, and like I want to hear when you're done breaking even, because I agree with you. Like we don't just create content to be useful and helpful and serve people. Like we have careers, we have families, we have bills, we have and we have more than bills. We have financial goals, and that's okay. So when you're done breaking even, I want you to come back on our podcast and tell us how like you did it all. Okay.
Done and done.
Part 2.
Love it.
All right. So tell people, just give them the rundown. Where can they find you? What's your contact info? What's your handle? All that.
Absolutely. Well, y'all are going to hate me because unfortunately I started with one handle and then it was taken on Instagram, and then I didn't want them in therapy practice that. So I have a few different places you can find
me. And we'll
me.
put them all in the show notes too, so people will be able to click them, but just tell us for
find them. So TikTok is kind of what we're talking about the most. So you can find me there at therapy_thoughts, THOUGHTS. So thoughts. Then people, they're like, oh, it's THOTS. I was like, no, not that kind of thought. Therapy_thoughts. On Instagram, you can find me at Love Your Little Victories, spelled all the same way, because that is actually one of my mottos, especially in therapy practice. This is so important to accomplish all the amazing things that you have, but also notice those. Notice the little things that add up. So I could rant again on that all day, but that's where you can find me on Instagram. And if you are looking for a therapist in North Carolina or looking to get connected, I encourage you to check out my website. My practice name is Flourish Wellness PLLC, and it's just flourishwellnessplLC.com. You're welcome to check me out, get to know me a little bit more on there as well.
Yay. Okay. I love it. And we will put all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait for part 2 and all your abundance of your course. We'll see you next time.
Good. Thanks, Kelley.
This podcast is sponsored by Simple Practice. I've been using Simple Practice since 2016, which has helped me run a smooth and profitable private practice over the years. It has simplified everything from scheduling to billing, giving me a better balance between the work I'm so passionate about and the family time I'm not willing to miss out on. Check out the episode notes to get a free 2-month trial of Simple Practice, my preferred all-in-one HIPAA-compliant solution. Hi, everyone. Here we are back at Ask Kelley Anything, one of my favorite parts of the Private Practice Pro podcast. So let's get into today's question.
Hi, Kelley. Started listening to your podcast when my supervisor recommended it. So here's my question. I got a referral from another therapist, and I'm wondering if it's okay to give them a gift. Let me know what you think. Thank you. Bye.
So this is a question I actually get a lot, and it's something that I personally, I think goes to one of my values. I'm a gift giver, I will tell you. So let me tell you how I handle this. When I get a referral from a therapist, I do send a gift. Now, I'm not sending them a diamond tennis bracelet, okay? I'm talking about a candle or some cookies. One time I sent ice cream to a therapist, like on dry ice that got delivered to their office, which was really fun. They were in a group practice, so I sent enough for the group. Sometimes I'll send some flowers, and I always send a really nice handwritten card. I typically send a gift for the first referral someone sends in a year, okay? So I'll send them a nice gift under $30 for the first referral they send in a year. And I'll include some links in the show notes of this episode to like Amazon links of gifts that I've sent in the past. And then for follow-up referrals, so let's say they send 4 or 5 a year, I will send a handwritten thank you note for every single one of those referrals, so long as that client has signed I will send a handwritten thank you note for each of those referrals. That being said, I have a question in my intake packet that says, who sent you to my private practice, and can I send that person a thank you card? So the client has to check off saying, yes, it's okay. If that's the case, I send a thank you card for every single referral, and I send a thank you gift for the first referral of the year. I also send out holiday gifts to my referral sources. Again, nothing really big, and I really keep the focus on how thankful I am that they're supporting my business, how thankful I am for the work that they're doing for clients in our community. And I don't personally believe there's anything unethical about it. I'm not sending them Lakers tickets and box seats or anything like that. I'm just making sure that they know that I really appreciate the work they do and their support of my business. So I hope this helps. I'll include some links in the show notes, and happy gift giving. If you would like to be featured on Ask Kelley Anything, I love getting listener questions from you guys. Anything about private practice goes. And the best way to do that is actually just to give me a call and leave me a question on my voicemail. So I'm going to tell you the phone number right now, and make sure to write it down. Here it is. 805-243-8241. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.